Good evening, Mo Money Mango here, and tonight we are doing a sample budget spreadsheet using Google Docs. Of course, you can use Excel for this. I prefer Google Docs because it is easier to use and it is available for free online with a Gmail account. So this is my sample spreadsheet, and let's start walking through it. On the left-hand side, I have my expenses. That's what this column is. In the middle, I have my income. This would be your paychecks or other sources of income. And on the right column, I have my monthly summary. So on the left side, this is my expenses. I have description, then date, then amount, and then I have different categories of expenses. This first one is housing, transportation, and food. For this example, I only included 3 categories. Of course, you need to have as many categories as you believe that you need. I think that early on, you should have many categories so that you can really pinpoint where your money is going. Maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 categories to really start figuring this stuff out. Over time, as you start to get a handle on where your money goes, you could probably reduce some of your categories into a more leisure category. So here's how I go ahead and record each transaction in my bank account. So for housing, my first one might be rent. And I put a date. This is the date that it clears in my bank account, so I can keep a good record. Let's just make some numbers up here. As you can see, it automatically totals it up. This is a summation of all of these entries. So anytime I change something, it automatically updates this part of the spreadsheet. Same goes down here. This automatically adds up this one, and this one. So I can see how much my total expenses are at the end of the month. Let's go ahead and add a few other entries. And it continues to add up. Transportation, let's say car insurance. And for food, the way I define food is grocery stores and cooking at home, because I believe eating out is a luxury, and I like to capture that in a different category. That way, let's say I need to save some money. Well, it's going to be difficult for me to stop eating, but it will be easy for me to stop eating out. So I like to differentiate between categories that are essential to categories that are more luxury/leisure. So food for me is grocery stores. So let's say Publix. Here's our first couple entries. I like to have a little bit of extra space. So as you can see, I didn't fill in this entry. That way I don't have to rebuild my spreadsheet every single month in the event that I have a few extra line items on any one category. So this to me is totally fine. Now, some other options that you might want to do. Some people might, on this column right here, put your budget. Let's say your budget for housing was $950 a month. You could put that right here, and you'd be able to tell very quickly if you were approaching your monthly budget. I don't like to do that, but that is an option some people might prefer to do. Okay, so moving on to income. This is in the form of a paycheck. So I like to put my date right here. Now this is your gross pay. This is going to be your hourly pay times how many hours you worked most of the time. If your salary, of course, things could be different, but let's say this is $1,000. This is before taxes or anything is taken out of your paycheck. Of course, the feds like to come in. Let's just go ahead and add some line items in here. I'm making these up as I go. And then depending on your state, this might say Wisconsin state withholding. Those are taxes that go to your state. Now, if you don't know what these are, you need to look them up. You need to understand where your tax money is going. This could impact in the long run where you want to live. Maybe you want to live in a state that provides more services. Maybe you want to live in a state that taxes less. So you need to understand what these are and how much of your money, of your paycheck, is going towards these things. This could impact who you would like to vote for. Right here I have a total amount. Again, I like to put it in red because this is money that is being taken away. It's either an expense or a tax. So I like to put numbers like that in red. Here's a 401k. 401k is a deduction that I can choose to make from my paycheck. Let's say I decide to deduct $150 for this paycheck. I like to put that in blue because that is money that I no longer have access to right now, but that's not being taken away from me. That's going to a different account. So I like to say that money that is going away forever is red. Money that is going to a different account that I still have control over is blue. And money that is going directly into my checking account, that is green, baby. That is my own personal choice. You can make these colors whatever you see fit. So this is called your net income. This is how much income goes into your bank account at the end of all of your expenses and deductions. Now my last column over here is my monthly summary. So this automatically pulls the data from the totals of my categories. Same thing with transportation, and same thing with food. And then this is my income. Again, this is the same thing. This grabs the total amounts very quickly from each category. Now right here, this is income minus expenses. So how much money did I make minus how much money did I spend? On this particular instance, I only put one of my paychecks in here, which I took home $610, but for the month I spent $1,070. Well, let's say I haven't added my second paycheck of the month yet. What I do is I copy this, boom, and let's just assume the numbers are the same. This paycheck date might be the 31st instead. Of course, I'll need to update these amounts here. So what I could do is come down here and put some more totals. For example, total tax, total 401k, and total income. And I could, of course, add all these up. Now, as you can see down here in the bottom left, January is the first month, but I'll have a different spreadsheet for each month so that I can really keep track of each and every month. Then at the end, now I know I've been putting these in the year 2020, but we're pretending it's the year 2021. And this right here, this is going to be my yearly summary. So if I go to January, what I like to do is I like to transfer this information over to these categories. Now, I'm getting an error because it's a calculation, so I want to just paste the values after all the calculations are done. And we're going to do the same for this right here. And there you have it. I'll be able to track my housing, transportation, and food expenses over time. And if I see, let's say in May, my transportation costs bump up, I'd be able to say, okay, why is that? I'd go down here into my monthly expenses and see what I was doing in May. Maybe I took a road trip or something else happened. This is a great way to keep track of your expenses over time. Now, when you go ahead and do your own version, I want you to hand build it, and I want you to make it exactly as you think it should be. Include your own categories, maybe change your colors. Maybe you want income on the left and expenses on the right, but the data that needs to be in here should still be the same. You should have a description of what it is you're paying for. It should be the date it clears in your checking account. And then you also need to include every expense, including taxes, including 401k. If you have an HSA, if you have medical things that come out pre-tax, those are all things that you need to include on here so that you can keep a really good track of your expenses. Anyway, this is my introduction to sample budgeting in Excel or Google Docs. Thank you for listening, and I'm excited to record part 2 coming up next.